Well, I'm on a roll, so I'm back with part 10 of making the acoustic bass guitar. Today, the subject of entertainment and some demonstration is manufacturing the bridge, which this is not. This is the bridge, however, in Palfero. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background here because I've demonstrated making bridges before, and I've demonstrated slick exotic jigs on my milling machine for doing this work. And I even got stuff in the comments section about, well, wait a minute, we don't all have milling machines. What are you trying to do to us? And I get that. Uh, anyway, a little background. To make the bridge, first I select the piece of material I need, and I will cut out a blank that will be obviously over length. It will be 1 and 13/16 inches wide. My jig tells me how wide to rip that without wasting a lot of material. And then I square an end and I'll cut this to length. This is my bridge model. There is a technique which I demonstrated in a table saw video where you can copy the length of anything you want. And since this is my bridge model, this is what I use to copy. So I get all of that done, and then I've got width, thickness, and length. And I'm just going to put this right in my real nice jig here. And I'm going to take this over to the shaper. You can do this obviously with a router table. And by using a zero clearance cutter, you're just going to read that, and it will cut the wing of the bridge, release it, flip it 180 degrees, and do the other side of it, and you've got perfectly matched wings on your bridge. And at that point, I'm ready to do the serious milling and drilling of those holes. Now, I am going to show you that I did this, yep, I know, on the milling machine. But fear not, I did it on the milling machine because I just love to play with my milling machine. But after I demonstrate, which by the way will be quick, after I demonstrate doing that on the mill, I've got a setup on my drill press for exactly the same jig that I'm using to show you how easy it is to do this with a drill press if you don't have something, as exotic as a mill. So let's get started on that. I've made a simple block here out of a scrap of cherry, and I've put a taper on the back of it so that it will rotate the bridge blank for the proper angle for the saddle slot. And over here and here at opposite ends, these are just crude hold down blocks. They're held with screws. And I've got a little stop over here so that if I have to remove this and relocate it, I can. It's nothing fancy. It's quite crude, but it will be very effective. And you can probably see here, my mill is set. I went through the motions of, with a center finder, finding all of my appropriate positions so that I'm in a starting position to mill the saddle slot. And up here, you can see on the DRO that I'm in the position I want to be. I'm at 312 thousandths on the y-axis and 0 on the x. So now all I have to do is travel the appropriate distance to get where I want to go for the length of that slot. And over here I've got my crude crib notes. So we'll turn this machine on, see if we can make this happen. I'm not milling all the way down. I probably could. Certainly enough power in the machine and resistance in the bit, but I think we'll get better results if we just go a little slower. And I'm not going to come right up to my line either. I'm going to stay back away from that, and I'll come to my final point over here at the right time. So I'm just going to crank back to the 0 on my DRO, which takes a little bit of time. and we'll go down again. So now we've got a nice bridge saddle slot milled in there, and it is dead on center and the length it needs to be. So now to drill my bridge pinholes, I've determined that I need to be from the edge of the bridge, from the front edge. Those holes need to be centered on a line that's 935 thousandths of an inch from the edge, which I have established on my readout. And then with my center finder again, I'm just going to relocate center because now I'm going to offset half of the string spacing. My string spacing is 2.5, so I'm going to come over 1.25 inches, and I'm using a center finder, so I don't need to worry about the diameter of the bit as I did here. I can just go right to that center point and drill my first hole, and then I'll drill a line of 4 holes at 83 hundredths of an inch, a multiple of that, 3 times that, 4 times that, and it'll put us at 2.5. So I've got my drill centered up where it belongs. I have moved from that center line, as you can see here on the DRO. I've moved 1.25 inches, and that's all I need. So now I'm going to zero this, and then I'm just going to travel in increments of 83 hundredths of an inch to get the 4 holes that I need. And there we have it, 4 holes drilled, evenly spaced. Very nice and neat, very predictable. Now I know a lot of folks don't have a milling machine, so I guess I'm kind of overdoing it when I demonstrate something on that thing. But it occurred to me that the least I could do by way of offering something that you could use in your shop is a way maybe to use this same jig on your drill press. And it's easy enough to do. I've just set this up as a sample. I've put a fence here on the drill press, clamped it down, and you can use a center finder, again, one of these. You could chuck that up and find your center line of this. Now, in this case, you'd have to draft all of this stuff right on the bridge blank, which that's fair enough. You can do that dead accurate, of course. And you set your fence up, and then you can see I've just set a stop here on each side so that I've limited the movement carefully of my work. And it's really a simple enough thing to do. See, that'll sit in there and it'll mill that right out for you. It can easily be done on a drill press. I would advise, this happens to be a 2-flute end mill. I would make sure you use a spiral bit and use an upcut bit. Do not use a downcut bit for something this deep. I think it'll become your enemy. But this is easy enough to do. And then, of course, when it comes to drilling the holes, you can lay those out on a line. You could set the same fence up again, move it back, I suppose, or you could even set this fence up so that it's already moved back to that line where the pins are going to be drilled through, and then put a block in there and move it out to this line. So there's a lot of ways you can go about this that are technically simpler than what I demonstrated on the mill. And I just want to make a plug for this. If you don't have an edge finder and a center finder, get one. Even if you don't have a milling machine, these things are so handy on a drill press or a mill, and sometimes chucked up even in a lathe, they can be useful. And they're simple enough to use, and they're not too expensive. You can buy these on Amazon and different places for, I don't know, $8–10 a piece, maybe even a little bit less. Well, I know I get a little crazy about this milling machine, but as I mentioned, I do love the darn thing. So thanks for tolerating me, and thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and put a like on the video if you will. I appreciate it.